What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and I'm here tonight with the review for How to Get Away with Murder. This is Season 6, it's Episode 5, and it's titled, We're All Gonna Die. So you guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into tonight's episode. Alright, so we're gonna start the episode out with Annalise. So we see Annalise, she's at the house, and she's listening to the recording that New West gave her about the session with Sam, where she came on to Sam. So in the middle of her listening to this call, in the middle of her listening to the recording, she got a call from Bonnie. So Bonnie called her to let her know that, Frank was in the hospital. So then we see Annalise, she rushes down to the hospital where Nate is there, as well as Bonnie. So then we do see a flashback, and then the flashback is when Frank went to, try to find Laurel, but he ran into Xavier. So, Frank thinks that Xavier knows where Laurel is, and Xavier's like, nope, I don't know where Laurel is, but I need your help to find my sister. So then we see Bonnie. So Bonnie was talking to Nate later in the episode, and she was telling, she has Nate tell Annalise that, he's working with the FBI. Well, the FBI offered him a deal. He says, you know what, I did not take that deal. So then, because she says, go ahead, keep going. He says that he also believes that Tegan is working with the Castillos. And Annalise is like, I don't believe that, he's like, but you putting your faith in her. And she was like, and I'm putting my faith in you too, because she says, I don't believe that you're an informant with the FBI. So I'm choosing to trust Tegan. And I'm like, cool, good. So then the police come in, and the police start to question him about, Annalise them about, what happened to Frank. And she was like, you need to be talking to the FBI because we believe that it was Xavier Castillo. And they know, everything about Xavier, so you need to talk to the FBI. And then, Frank he wakes up and he says Laurel's name. And I'm like, why is he saying Laurel's name? So then we do see that Xavier, he had tied Frank up. So Xavier was asking Frank, he told him, there's an informant in your group that is working against you and Annalise. So, so he says, I need your help. And Frank doesn't want to help, Xavier. So Xavier goes the route of wanting to beat the hell out of Frank. And I'm like, wow. He beats him. So then we see Nate. So Nate says that the FBI told him that Miller was innocent, and Emily says, "You believe that?" And he says, "Yeah, like you believe that Tegan is not working with the Castillos." And again, like she said, she just believes, and I think I got ahead of myself a few minutes ago, but she believes, that she doesn't believe he's an informant, and she believes Tegan. So it's a catch. It's a two-way street. I believe her, and I believe you. So then we later see that Frank, he was still, when he was still with Xavier. So Xavier was, actually Frank said to Xavier that he believes that Laurel is the informant. And then he was like, what, she cleared that safety deposit box out, and you helped her, didn't you? And Xavier was like, no, I did not help her clean that safety deposit box out, because what I did was I'm the one that cleaned it out. My assistant Jamie went and cleaned it out. She got Wes's confession that, said Annalise helped with the cover-up, and that you killed Wallace Mahoney and everything. And I'm like, oh. So then, he was like, so, are you going to help me? And Frank was like, no, I'm not going to help you. So then, I think those were jumper cables that they got. So they got some jumper cables, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's like one of those boxes that you use on, those jumper boxes. And they turned it on, and they just shocked the shit out of Frank. I'm like, God damn. Now I know Frank is like Teflon Don, but he ain't that strong to withstand all that stuff. Shit. Whew. Xavier beat him and then shocked the shit out of him. And then we see a nurse or a doctor talking to Annalise and telling them what Frank has been through. I'm just like, fuck, Frank. You a strong motherfucker, but damn. Shit. Alright, so then we also saw Bonnie. So Bonnie was telling Frank, please, do not leave me. So then Nate comes in and he tells her that, hey, Tegan's wife is here. And she was like, are you still on this? He was like, yes, her wife is part of Homeland Security, and they are known to torture people. She was like, Nate, please let this shit go. And he was like, we can't let our guard down. And she's like, Nate, let it the hell go. Please let it go. At this point, Nate is really starting to get on my nerves with this shit. I love me some Nate, but Nate is working a brother's nerves at this point. So then we also see Annalise. She's talking to Bonnie, and she tells her, we still have a problem with Vivian. she was like, she gave New West those some recordings of Sam's sessions where it proves that I was the one who initiated the relationship with, Sam. And she did this because she was afraid to be who she is, and she was afraid to be gay with Eve. I'm like, wow. So then we do later see Annalise. So she goes back home and she just, she has the recordings and she just destroys all of them. So then she invites New West over to the house and she tells him that, she went after Sam because, she doesn't want to be alone. And, she's not that same girl that she was then because she was about his age and she's like, she's not that same girl. So he says, so you don't lie as much? He says, I would hope I don't. He says, so why did you lie to Michaela about her dad? And she was like, I didn't bring you here to talk about Michaela. You want to know about Sam, right? So let me tell you about Sam. So, she tells him, with Sam was, because he asked her, why did you choose Sam over Eve? And she says, because Sam looked like what she had envisioned in her brain as a kid. And then, she said Sam also pushed her to want to have a family and that she never really stopped trying to have a kid with him because all Sam cared about was him. So she was trying to give him a son, give him a child to kind of, damn, that kind of sounds bad, but kind of get over, not having New West in his life. So then we also see Frank. So Frank, he does wake up and, Bonnie calls Annalise and she said that, when he woke up, he was saying Laurel to Annalise because Annalise helped her disappear. And she's like, where'd you get that dumbass idea from? And so then, we see Bonnie and we see a flashback to when Frank was with Xavier. Because one of Xavier's guys came in there with the paper. Now, Frank couldn't really see what the paper was because he was kind of in and out of it. But what it is Annalise's bank statement. And this is the $208,000 that was we saw last week when she was getting that money out. When she was checking that, doing the transfer from her accounts. So what it is this account is an account that the Castillos do business in offshore. And so that's why Xavier feels like, Annalise helped Laurel, get away. I'm like, that's a good interesting idea. So then, Bonnie questions her like, so what was that money for? She's like, she said, I got that money from CNG. It was my bonus. I was able to talk them into giving it to me. And she says, this was money for me that if Nate, you, New West, anybody turns on me, I can leave and live a peaceful life. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I believe Annalise, but I'm like, that's a good enough answer for me for right now. But I don't necessarily know 100% that I believe Annalise. So Frank finally does wake up, and he tells Bonnie like, yo, you know what? You were right about everything with Laurel. I put so much in her. And she's done me wrong, but you, of all people, have been there beside me. He tells Bonnie that he loves her. I'm like, do I believe that Frank loves her? Don't know. So then we see Annalise. So Annalise, she called to check on that checking account, and it doesn't have the $208,000 in there. Someone earlier had went in, took the money out, and left her $2.17 in that account. I'm like, shit. So then she calls Solomon. She's like, you know what? It's time to pay up. I'm like, pay up on what? Does this have anything to do with Michaela by chance? Which we're going to talk about Michaela in just a little bit. But I'm like, wow. I wonder what the hell this has anything to do with. But moving on, you guys. All right, before we get into those annoying ass kids, let's talk about Tegan. Now, can somebody explain to me, was that a wig on Tegan's head? Because I was thoroughly confused by that. So Tegan has Cora in her office. And, they're going over the logistics of their divorce. So then we also see, they're talking about the expenses. I guess they went to couples counseling at one point, and they're talking about who's going to pay for it. And Tegan was like, well, why don't you have your boyfriend, is his name Patrick? Yeah, Patrick pay for it. She's like, well, Patrick and I broke up months ago. She's like, oh, so you weren't going to tell me that. She's like, it's bad enough that I found out that you cheated on me with a man, and then you and said man are not together. Wow. So then we also do see Tegan. So she goes over to Annalise, and she when she goes to Annalise's door, she has some flowers in her hand. And, Annalise is like, so I invite you over, you come up with flowers. She's like, these were at the door when I got here. And those flowers are from Robert. And Robert is still adamant about getting a second date with Annalise. And Annalise tells her, yeah, we went on a date. I completely forgot about him. And she, Tegan was kind of in her feelings. I'm like, ooh. Tegan, you kind of, and your feelings about Annalise going on a date with the man, huh? Tell her you like her, Tegan. Like, just be honest with Annalise. So then, they sit down, and Tegan is drunk. She got drunk before she got there, to be respectful to Annalise. And, she tells her that she sat down with Cora, and, with her sitting down with Cora, she realizes she still loves her. So, Tegan then tells Annalise how much she admires her and how much she's glad that glad she has her in her life, and she's glad to know her. So then we later see Tegan, and she's once again talking to Cora, and she tells Cora that she misses her, but Cora, Cora just stomped right on her heart and her feelings. Told her, "I don't miss you. I don't love you. I haven't loved you in a long time. It's over between me and you." And I'm like, well, god damn, like I'm like, wow. Tell her how you really feel. So then we do see Tegan. She signs the divorce papers, and Cora wants to give her a hug, and she's like, "I'm fine." So Cora leaves, and she kept saying, I'm fine," and she just broke down and started crying. So then we see Cora. She goes to start up her bike, but her bike won't start up. And who is there to help her? None other than Nate. I'm like, God damn, Nate, you've been annoying as hell at this point. Hug, Nate, getting on my nerves. Something serious. Something serious. All right, so let's start up with the kids. Now, there was this really weird scene that didn't quite place very well for me. I thought it was like a scene that they just threw in there. So you guys remember last week's episode, Connor and Oliver had that threesome. So the guy was still there, and he was cooking them breakfast, and I'm like, why did we need to see this? But okay. So then Asher, you guys remember last week, his sister tricked him on the Flirt Inferno app, and Asher is with her. She's talking about how their mom is suicidal, and Asher needs to come home with her so that way he can talk to the mom and kind of get her off the ledge. And then Asher tells her to leave, and she tells him like, Mom, you need to help Mom because Mom helped you with that Tiffany situation. Like, Mom went to Tiffany's family and told them not to sue. He was like, no, that was Dad. She said, no, that was Mom. Mom would do anything she can for you. And I'm like, okay, whatever, Tiffany. Who gives a shit? So then we see Michaela. So you guys remember last week Michaela was in the bar with Solomon. So Solomon is just telling her like he found out that her mom was pregnant, but her mom didn't want him. I guess her mom wanted to keep it a secret. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. So, because he said he didn't know until months later. And then, he said that he's followed her life when she was like, I guess a teenager. And she's like, why can you save me from those people? And he said, I mean, you were top of your class and you were getting ready to go to Yale. And then he said, but he did, however, reach out to Annalise when he found out that she was going to Middleton so that Annalise could keep an eye on her. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then we also see Michaela. So she met with Solomon once again because he told her to come to his room the next morning at 10 o'clock. So she went to his room and he wants her to be his business partner. And I'm like, he wants her to be his business partner, but you don't really know too much about her. But if you say so. So then she gets a text. It's actually a group text from the others. It's actually a group text saying, hey, meet up at the house. So then we also see New West. So New West is calling Michaela. And he's telling Michaela that he's not going to give up on her. So, she's still with Solomon. And she just questioned why he never checked on her and her mom. And he says, you know what? I want to fix things between you and I right now. And she says, okay, well, give me some money. And he says, okay, I'll do you one better. Here's a blank check. You fill in the dollar amounts of what you want. I would have said, shit, thank you. I would have found out how much, because she was like, she found out how much he's worth. I would have took every dollar out of his checking account. Swear to God, he would have been cleaned dry. He probably would have came after me, but I'm like, shit, you left me high and dry, so I'm going to leave you high and dry with no money. And I got it all. So then we do see Annalise. So she's with, it's Asher, it's Oliver, and it's Connor. And she's telling them that, about Frank. And they, how they believe it's Xavier. And Connor's like, oh my God, Xavier's going to come after us. And then this is when Oliver's like, oh crap. And they were like, what, Oliver? He was like, well, Frank came to me And, you know, he said that he found a photo of Laurel leaving the bank, and we were able to track down the cab driver that she got in the cab. But, you know, Frank, he said that he couldn't find any information. You know, the cab driver didn't remember Laurel, so I figured he let it go. And they were like, why come he didn't tell us? He said, well, Frank said that he didn't want nobody to make fun of him, you know, for still having feelings for Laurel. And we're like, you fell for that? Yep, he fell for it. He's stupid just like the rest of you guys are. Like, and Connor's mad. I mean, I guess I get why Connor is mad. I guess I can understand it. Even though Connor gets on my nerves. Actually, they all get on my damn nerves, but I guess I can understand it. Alright, so Michaela's back and she has this check in her hand. And, you know, she is just wondering what's what with this check. Like, why would he give me a blank check? Is this a setup? Oh my God, like, girl, get over yourself. And Asher's in his feelings that she took New West with her. And she's like, but she's like, the last time I told you something, you went back and told Annalise that New West killed Vivian's boyfriend. He says, and I still think he did. And she said, that's not the point, Asher. Which yeah, it is. Because she don't believe it, but yeah, whatever. Whatever, Michaela. Whatever. So then, you know, they bring up Frank, and she's like, wait, what happened to Frank? And they tell her. It's like, why come y'all didn't say anything? They were like, because you kept rambling on and on about this damn check. So then they get a knock at the door, and it's Asher's sister, Chloe. So Chloe wants to question these group of people that have her brother so entranced in them, and, you know, that he loves them so much. So, you know, she's like, y'all don't even know him. Y'all don't know his middle name. Y'all don't know anything about him. And Michaela's like, well, I know this about him. I know that about him. She said, you dated him, didn't you? She said, yes, I did. And if you cared about him, you would have knew that. I'm like, oh, score one for Michaela. Score one for Michaela. So then we also later see Michaela. So she's in her bed and she still has this damn check. And she's eyeing the check. And she's, you know, and then Connor comes in there. She's like, you know what? I'm going to have to dump New West for taking Solomon's side. And then Connor has to make her see it on, you know, from Solomon's point of view. Because he's like, so Solomon was about our age at that point, huh? He said, we would probably do the same thing. She's like, you think I would abandon my child? He says, if it was for the sake of your career. Yeah, she said, you know what? You're right. Okay. So then we later see Connor. So Connor is going off on Oliver about keeping a secret from him about Frank. And Oliver is like, well, you know, I felt like you would have told Annalise. And Connor was like, I wouldn't tell Annalise. He's like, I don't believe you. And I'm like, you're right. I don't believe him either. I know Connor would have told Annalise. Definitely would have told Annalise. And then they get a text from Rodney. That's the guy's name that they hooked up with. And he wants to go for a round 2. I'm like, okay. So then we see Chloe. So Chloe is telling Asher that, you know, she doesn't like the others and she doesn't think they're any good for him. And that once once law school is over, they won't be there for him. And he says, I believe that they will be there for me. And then, you know, she tells him, like, come home. So then we do see Asher, and Asher does go home with Chloe. And, you know, he sees his mom, who she looks like she has been rode hard and hung up to dry. And so we do see Michaela. So Michaela goes over to Asher's place, and she's knocking lightly, Asher. So then New West comes out, and, you know, they talk, and he's like, you know what, I want to work things out with you. She's like, I do too. So he said, so they start, you know, they say, let's stop fighting with each other, and they hug each other. So I guess that they're good with each other. And then the episode, it ended. So we saw Tegan. So, you know, she's at the scene of the crime, which actually happens to be where New West and Asher lives. And she's talking about, you know, she wants to see her client. And I'm like, this is interesting. Very interesting. I'm still wondering if Annalise is dead. Like, I know they keep saying who killed Annalise, but I can't imagine. I don't believe Annalise is dead. I really, truly don't. But you guys, that was the episode. So be sure to like the video, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys later.